Good morning, SKN. My name is Patrick Howell. I'm the head of the communications unit here in Nevis. And we're doing something a bit different. Though it may look like another episode of Small Business Focus, this is another thing we're starting. As a matter of fact, when Shelisia came, we started talking and she inspired me to start a whole other thing. I'm gonna call it experiences. So, Shelisia, you're the first one on experiences, episode number 1. Miss Shelisia Tonia Glasford.
Pleasure to be here, Mr. Patrick Howell.
Yes, ma'am. So, I initially reached out to Tonia. What do people mostly call you?
Shelisia or Shelly.
Shelly. Shelly. Okay. I initially reached out to Shelly because I heard that she had just returned from a stint in Australia. She's in the hospitality business, and I think you went there via Park Hyatt.
Correct.
Yes. So I wanted to, most Nevisians, Kittitians, are Caribbean folks that we never get the chance to, say, go to places like Australia. So I wanted to reach out to her so she could tell us a bit about her experience in Australia, things that we wouldn't know. But before we go, normally I like to run on people's resume, but she has quite a thing here. So you went to CFBC.
Yes.
Graduated from there. You were employed at the Marriott Hotel.
While going to CFBC.
While going to CFBC. Yes. Okay. I see you were in Switzerland. What was that about?
So I did my bachelor's degree in Switzerland. So it was a dual bachelor program with the Ritz College Switzerland and Washington State University. So I was there for 2 years to complete those degrees.
Okay, awesome. That's a lot to know, folks. So be with me. Christoph Haber, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so when I returned to the Federation in 2017, I really wanted to start working at the Park Hyatt in St Kitts. However, the resort had not yet been open, and so I was able to secure some employment for on a short-term basis with Christoph Haber in the capacity of Human Resources Coordinator. So I was there just for a little under 2 months in trying to support the HR team.
Okay. So how did you get let's jump from the Marriott to Park Hyatt?
Okay, so whilst I was going to CFBC, I was pursuing my associate's degree program, my associate's degree certification in hospitality studies. And at that point, Marriott wanted to formulate some sort of partnership with the college. And so they would have reached out to see if they can try to have some of the students work at the Marriott at the same time in order to gain some practical exposure. And so fortunately, I was one of those students that was selected, and I was able to then commence my, professional, practical part of my hospitality journey at the St Kitts Marriott, where I was a hostess and a server as well. So I did that whilst going to CFBC, and then I graduated from CFBC in 2012. Then I was employed at the then RBTT Bank, just across the street from us, as customer service representative. And after a short 1 year, I then had the opportunity to go to Switzerland. So I was in Switzerland for 2 years, and then I came back. Actually, after Switzerland, I went to the US, where I was working at the Breakers Resort in Palm Beach. I did a management training program there just for about 18 months. Then I returned to St. Kitts. So as I waited for Park Hyatt to be open, I was at Christoph Haber, and then I went to Park Hyatt. So that's sort of the in-between the Marriott and then the Hyatt brand.
Okay, 1 second. Folks, Tyrone, I know the lady is pretty. Now, Tyrone has never taken so many pictures before, never taken so many pictures before. Now he's taking 1,000, and I'm trying to get it. Tyrone, hold up on the pictures for a second, okay? So you waited going into the Park Hyatt.
Yes, so I would have been at Christoph Haber before Park Hyatt, just until Park Hyatt was ready to take on employment, and then I was able to start my Hyatt journey then. That was in September of 2017.
Okay, so joining Park Hyatt, you're going as a newbie. How do you get from being a newbie to being afforded the the privilege of jumping over to Australia?
I think ultimately it comes down to what your goals are, what you're passionate about. I was only 24 at the time when I joined Hyatt. I was a housekeeping supervisor. I was the youngest out of all the other supervisors. Of course, these were persons that would have had extensive knowledge and training already in the hospitality industry, and specifically in that department. However, I had a lot of zeal, I had a lot of passion, enthusiasm, and I think those are the qualities, some of the qualities that my bosses would have recognized and realized that there is great potential here. And 6 months after starting that position, I was actually afforded the opportunity to be promoted to assistant guest experiences manager. So, you know, I came in, yes, as a supervisor, but you know, it's important to have leaders that see potential in you that sometimes you don't even see in yourself, and they're able to hone that potential and then create other opportunities for your growth. So I went from a housekeeping supervisor to assistant guest experiences manager, then I went to the front office, then I came back to housekeeping, and all of those different, you know, positions help to build you as a leader. All of those exposures within the resort really help to increase your influence. And so when the opportunity then came up to transition over to Australia, I thought that that was the right time. I had already been with the company for 5.5 years, and I believe that I would have gained the necessary skill sets and knowledge and experiences in order to then represent properly over on Sydney.
Okay. Let me segue for a second. Folks, and this is a Nevisian woman that went across the water to Park Hyatt and did well.
Thank you.
There's a little footnote there. So, okay, so you get the note that, okay, you have this opportunity to go to Australia. So tell me how you start prepping for a trip like that.
Well, you know, it's not just a note. You have to go through the entire interview process. So you can't really bank on the fact that, well, you've already worked for 5.5 years with the brand. You still need to show within an interview format and environment that you are still capable. This is a different type of clientele, different environment, it's a hotel versus a resort. There's so many different differences there. So you have to then, of course, prepare yourself for the interview. Make sure that you're appearing confident within the interview, not just to impress your boss, but your boss's boss. You know, I had to be interviewed with the director of human resources as well as the general manager. And so these are persons that do not know me personally, so they can't bank on seeing Shelisia on the street. I have to be able to present my best self within that environment. And I think I was successful in being able to do so. After that, it's a tedious process in order to secure the visa to go to Australia, because it's a very interesting process. It takes months, and it's also a very expensive process. So it would have taken time to secure that. So in between then, you know, you're trying to prepare mentally. How do you transition out of your small community, now going into such huge country, leaving behind, you know, family, friends, colleagues that you would have been able to work with for the past 5.5 years. So for me personally, I had to do a lot of soul searching, and I tried to research a lot about the Australia culture and some of the things that I know I would have to face when I get there. But of course, when you get there, it's still a different story. So you can prepare, but you just also need to be open-minded when you actually physically arrive to a new country in order to best capitalize on the experience.
Summarize your flight for me. You left from where?
So I left from Bastyr, so over on St Kitts. So I went from Bastyr to Miami. So that's about 3.5 hours. And then from Miami, we had to go, it was initially supposed to go through Los Angeles, which would be about 6 hours from Miami. However, there were some technical issues with the flight, so we ended up going through San Francisco, which is pretty much the same distance. So from St. Kitts, well, let's say from Nevis to St. Kitts, from St. Kitts to Miami, from Miami to San Francisco, from San Francisco to Sydney. So San Francisco to Sydney is about 15 hours. So it's a very, very long and tedious journey coming from here, getting physically to Sydney.
I can relate. I think when I went to Dubai, it was like between 15 and 18 hours. I forget, but anyway. So you get there. Is that night or day?
I arrived in the morning.
In the morning, yes. Okay. You get off the plane, they pick you up, I guess, and do you go straight to your your residence, or will it be
So
busing?
I was transportation was arranged to take me directly to the hotel because I was able to stay at the hotel for a short period of time prior to, settling into Sydney itself. So I arrived and then I was taken directly to the hotel.
Okay. So what was the welcome like?
um,
Now remember, you being a young woman of color coming from the Caribbean, and you're going to a country that's predominantly Caucasian, I'm assuming, because you have the Aborigines too.
yes, correct.
Am I correct? Okay. So you reach there. What's the welcome like, or what's the reception like?
Actually, I did not receive anything out of the ordinary as it relates to any racist slurs or anything like that. Someone did prepare me for that just in the event, just because you never know. But pleasantly, that was not the case at all. I was very much welcomed by the authorities there. I think persons are always intrigued, like, who is this person from this small island that they've never heard of? So that's always a great conversation tool to utilize. And so yeah, that was pretty amazing. Then I went to the hotel. The hotel is about maybe 30 minutes or so from the airport, and having arrived to the hotel, then I was welcomed by one of the managers and given a nice tour of the hotel. Very short one because of course I'm jet lagged at this point, very exhausted, but I was pumped with lots of energy because I was so excited to be there. And within 24 hours I was already transitioning and ready to start. So it was a very quick process in getting there, and then soon after arriving, getting right into the role as well.
Let's talk food for a second. Any adjustment as far as their local or usual cuisine?
I think in Sydney it's pretty international, so there are lots of different types of cuisines in Sydney. Even though persons may perceive that Australia has, of course, mostly Caucasians, there's still a high sense of Asian presence. So you do have a lot of different cuisines there coming from the Asian market. So that was not that much surprising to me, but it's just not something that I had expected. I think I had expected more like the US type of cuisine, but it was definitely more of a diverse offer, which is great. It gives you an opportunity to try different things. I am not as foodie as people think I am. I'm very particular when it comes to certain type of cuisine, but I always try to at least be open. Something I had thought about trying was to try the kangaroo, and then I became very nervous and I decided not to, but it's something that maybe I should have tried whilst I was there. But apart from that, I was able to experience other cuisines and other experiences, so that has been really good as well.
Okay. Like if you come to Nevis and like when the tourists come here and they say, okay, they want a local dining experience, we might give them the dumpling and salvage or goat water, something like that. When you were there, did they set up anything for you to like say, okay, this is authentic Australian cuisine? Did you have any of that kind of experience?
I wouldn't say that it was set up specifically for me. I would say that during the time that I was there, I was definitely able to sort of delve into that. I was able to make Aussie friends and build those relationships. So persons invited me to their homes and were able to provide me with authentic Aussie food.
So tell me about tell me what's considered authentic Aussie food.
They have a meat pie, which is literally what it says. It's a meat pie. I remember trying some of that because at the hotel they usually provide lunch or dinner for you, so that was definitely something that came up a lot. There is this dessert. I can't quite remember the name of it. It's actually called pavlova. So it has a bit of a tarty taste. It's like a pie, but I remember one of my colleagues, now friends, invited me to their home and they were able to provide that for me and made it from scratch. So that was really nice.
So what's in the pie though?
In the pie it has, how do I explain pavlova? It has fruits in it, kiwi, passion fruit, strawberries. I guess it depends on how you make it. Then there's like this creamy topping and a bit of a pastry as well. So it's very, very sweet. Yes. Then there is a fish called barramundi, which is local to Australia. Initially I really wanted to try it, and then I thought I had all the time in the world, and so I waited right till the very end to try it, and I really loved it. So it was very fleshy and not too much of one flavor, but it was really, really well done. And I wish I had an opportunity. Well, I wish I took the opportunity to enjoy more of the barramundi fixture. You know, one of my friends is not very happy about the fact that I did not indulge in that sooner, but I'm happy that I did it in the end.
Okay. Of course, okay, so you're there working. What was your position there?
So I was the duty manager, one of the duty managers at the hotel.
Okay, on your off time in Australia, what was your, how did you spend your off times? Besides, of course, you're gonna rest and try to, but
Yeah.
yeah, what'd you do for leisure?
For leisure, initially I was just trying to get settled because, as I told you, when I first arrived, I literally went from coming off of a very long flight to then having to transition into a work environment. And
After settling,
So in the initial phases, for the first few weeks, for me the goal was just to settle in, and then I tried to see, okay, what are the things I really want to experience while I'm here. So I tried to do a lot of excursions, visiting certain historical sites, or I guess popular areas within Sydney. So the Sydney Opera House, quite famous. The Sydney Opera House is actually just across.
That's the only thing I know about Australia is that iconic building.
Yes, and then you also have the Harbour Bridge as well, which is another iconic thing in Australia, or well, in Sydney. So that's actually just behind the hotel. So, you know, I did a tour of the Sydney Opera House at one point. Then I also did the bridge climb, which is about 3.5 hours going to the top of the bridge and coming back down. So I try as much as I can to try to experience different excursions that a guest might also want to experience. That way I can talk to them about it. And apart from that, I try to connect a lot with, you know, my colleagues and trying to cultivate relationships there. So there were moments where colleagues would invite me to their house. You know, we'll do different things together as a team, or at least with that specific colleague, and that is a way for me to get to learn about their culture as well. Karaoke is a big thing there. Well, it's a big thing within my team, and so a lot of times we will try to take the opportunity to do a lot of karaoke events, which is we're going to an actual place that does karaoke, not just like a restaurant, but is an actual, like a studio that you can go in and you can have your own karaoke party. And even though I'm not a singer, I love to think that I am, and so I truly do enjoy that part.
Did you have a chance of any, I guess what they call the Outback experience?
I did not, unfortunately. You know, it was a very short time. I think 2 years seem long, but it goes by really fast. During the time I was there, I also tried to experience other things in Australia, so not just Sydney or other areas. So I was able to visit the city of Melbourne. I went there on 2 occasions. I also went to Canberra, which is the capital of Australia, and also Brisbane. So apart from those, I really try to explore other countries because I'm not sure if I would have the chance ever again to be on that side of the world. So I took the chance to visit other places like Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia as well whilst I was there. So I really wanted to, as I said, capitalize on that experience on Down Under. Yes.
I can relate to the part where you say you kept putting things off and missing, because I lived in New York for like 3 years, and I didn't go to the Empire State Building and didn't go to the Statue of Liberty. Only when you're leaving, like, wow, you know, just like you said, you put it off and you take it for granted, and
you always think that you have time,
yes,
you know, and so sometimes maybe on a day off you're so exhausted and you're just like, okay, let me just stay indoors today, especially if the weather is not as favorable. Many persons may know that the seasons there are basically the opposite. So whereas in the US in December it's winter, in December in Australia it's summer. So it's a lot of different adjustments to be made, and so sometimes you're just so exhausted and you just feel like doing something else. Or it could also be on that day off you would prefer to reconnect with family and friends that are here on Nevis, because of the time difference that is oftentimes a challenge. And so maybe you might say, okay, let me leave that experience for another time and try to prioritize connecting or reconnecting with friends and families abroad at that point. So I do think I would advise persons, you know, who would have opportunities like this to visit another country or to live there for some time, is to really make sure that you're not necessarily planning everything, but know from the beginning what you want. And I knew that, but at the same time we always think that we have more time, so try as much as possible to prioritize those experiences. In the end, I was able to come up with an actual itinerary, and I was like, these are the things that I know for sure I need to get done, and I was able to do most of those things. At the same time, had I planned that way ahead and prioritized that, I probably would have better been able to capture the experience there.
Okay, I'm gonna ask about, and first of all, Aborigines. Is that the people we call Aborigines? Those of us on the outside. Do the Aborigines appreciate that word, or they actually call something else?
I think they do appreciate that word. I think for them, they just want to make sure that persons respect their contributions to Australia. I know in some businesses, I can say for my hotel, for example, we try to incorporate different artifacts or art pieces just to pay homage to the Aborigines culture. It's something that they take a lot of pride in there in Australia.
So in the big city, you're walking you're walking down Main Street. Do you see much of them, or how is that?
I don't think so. I think sometimes you do have, maybe if it's Australia Day, for example, like Australia Day is on the 26th of January. So of course, leading up to that, you might see a heightened degree of Aboriginalese presence.
Yes.
In the area or in the city, on the street, so to speak, on George Street, which is one of the main streets in Sydney. But I don't think it's something that every single day is just in your face and it's always there. In Sydney is so huge, it's very diverse, it's very international, so there are so many different cultures and religions and different types of people from all walks of life, and so it's a little bit busy. So for you to sort of keep up with anything that really stands out, oftentimes if it's not a specific occasion, you may not realize that, and you're also like focused on what you're doing as well.
How about also amongst the hotel staff? Did you have any of them as your co-workers?
No, I didn't have any of them that I can remember at this moment as my co-workers. Most of my co-workers were actually non-Aussie. I had a lot of co-workers from the Asian community, some Aussies here and there, but it wasn't primarily that. It was persons from different cultures, which is really great, especially in hospitality, to be able to understand and work with and connect and really have that integral part of your experience being that you understand those cultures, not just relate to them as a guest, but really having the day-to-day and connecting on that level. So that was really nice as well.
So let me ask you, would you ever do you plan to ever go back there?
I would like to visit Sydney one day. I'm not sure if at this point in my life if it is that I would go back there to live, but you just never know what experiences may come your way. I actually wanted to go to Australia in 2015. It was something that I thought about after completing Switzerland.
Yes.
And the opportunity that I wanted wasn't available at that moment, and I sort of just left it to the back burner. I just said, if it's supposed to happen eventually in life, it would happen. And I didn't expect that to be the case when I started my career with Hyatt. I never thought that would have been then, or that would have happened, but you just never know. So I always believe in being open, especially as young people. You need to be open to opportunities, and not just that, you need to always be willing to put your hand up and say, hey, I'm available, choose me. I believe in, colloquially as we say, being things and putting yourself out there so that opportunities find you as well. You need to be able to market yourself and be able to be willing and open to things that are new. I always say to persons, home is home. You can always come back at any point in time, but you would not always be 20, you'll not always be 25 or 30 without a child or without a husband or a wife or whatever the case is. So if you get an opportunity, take it. The world is big. I believe in dreaming big, and so if something comes and it's big, don't think that you can't do it. Just jump and see what happens, and most of the times you'll land on your 2 feet.
Yo, sweet she might be. She said, she's a motivational speaker here too. So okay, sum up Australia for me, short and sweet. As if you're trying to. Let's say you're trying to sell Australia to a St Kitts Nevis person about going to visit.
Yes. I would say exhilarating, unforgettable, definitely a comprehensive experience. It's English speaking, even though the English may not sound like real English. It might take a while for you to understand some of the terms, but if you have an opportunity, I know it's far, I know the flight time is not what persons ideally would want, but you just go to sleep and wake up, you'll be okay. And there are so many things to see. Australia is huge, so you're not just staying in Sydney. You can go to Melbourne, you can go to other surrounding cities, and there's just so much to see and do. And so if you have a chance to go, save your money, and definitely go down under and enjoy it for what it is.
So folks, we're going to jump over to another, because we're trying to introduce, I guess, Shelisia to you, so you know more about her. One of the things that jumped out at me on this thing, tell me what a vision board party is. Or tell us what a vision board party is.
So, do you know what a vision board is?
And please tell us what a vision board is.
So, a vision board is ideally a collage of all of your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, all of the things that you personally would like to see manifest in your life. So, for example, if you want to be a doctor, you might have on your vision board items that reflect your dream of wanting to be a doctor. Your vision board could be separated in a few different categories. So you could have professional goals, you could have personal goals, health goals, fitness goals, social goals, travel goals, whatever it is. It's all about what it is for you. And so the difference between having a vision board and just having generally just goals anywhere is that most of the times when persons have goals, they tend to forget what they are. They tend to maybe go on social media at the beginning of the year and everybody talks about their New Year's resolutions and talk about they're not gonna eat sugar, or they're not gonna drink soda, or they're not gonna do A, B, and C. And then maybe by the 6th or the 7th or maybe the 20th of January, people tend to forget exactly what those goals are. So vision boarding sort of allows you to take the goals out of your head, put them in a visual way, and then place that collage in an area in your house or wherever in your office that serves as a constant reminder to you that these are the things that you want to work on or you want to work towards. So for example, if your goal is to, I don't know, go on a cruise one day, so you might have a picture of the cruise ship and you have your vision board at home. And then you come home from work one day and you had a very stressful day at work and things were just not working out for you and you tend to feel discouraged. But then you look up there and you see that cruise ship over there looking at you and you're like, you know something, I felt like throwing in the towel today, but I'm going to pull it together. I'm going to go back in there the next day. I'm not going to quit because I need to go on this cruise ship. And so it's really a reminder of the things that you always want to do. You can also decide, okay, you want to go on the same cruise again and you're having a moment and you go and you want to purchase something that's not a necessity. And then you go there and you realize this thing costs X amount of money. But then the cruise ship is there in your face. It's reminding you like, hey, come, I want you to come on this cruise. And so that might deter you from actually making that purchase that was not necessarily, because again, you have a goal that's in your face and it's constantly reminding you and keeping you accountable to the things that you want to accomplish. So that's the power of vision boarding. That is what it is. A vision board party now, or a vision board session or workshop, is essentially now you going into a high vibrant or vibrational environment where you're now surrounded with other persons that also have that intention of creating their goals. And so for my personal events, or when I try to do sessions, they're usually formatted in a way where there is a motivational speech or inspirational section or segment initially to get persons, hyped up and motivated and passionate and about the things that they want. And then in the end, there would be an opportunity for them to personally create their own vision boards. They would have all of the materials. But I also like to remind persons that vision boards are not magic boards. So you don't just put that you want to go on a cruise or put that you want to become a doctor or whatever the case is. You have to continuously work on those goals and understand that challenges would come. So that's essentially what a vision board is. And
how big is it?
It could be completely up to you, but usually you utilize a foam board, which is about 30 to 40 inches. So maybe like this much of this table.
And I'm assuming you put it someplace in your house, just like you would hang a portrait someplace so that you can see it
you
very
want to
easily.
put it someplace that you're constantly seeing it. You don't want to just go and put it, write down your goals in your phone, put it in a notepad someplace, and then you forget about it, or put it under your bed, or put it in a notebook and put it on the shelf, or on social media. You don't see it again until next year when social media reminds you. You want it to be in your face. You can also do a virtual vision board. Some persons do have that preference. Me personally, I like sitting down and cutting out the pictures and really guiding people through that process. I think that's more exciting. I think sometimes when you do things virtually, oftentimes we could become a bit distracted.
You lose the human touch.
It does lose the human touch. You can become distracted because you get notifications from all of these other social media platforms, and then it takes you away from the purpose. So at a vision board party, it allows you to definitely ignore all of the different distractions and sit down and really focus on your goals in the presence of other persons who are doing the same thing. If you were to do this at home, you might say, oh, I have to wash. You find all of these excuses why you don't have 3 hours, for example, to sit down and do it. But if you're at a party, you're somewhat forced to do it within that type of environment.
So tell me, let's say you're having a vision board party in a room. If I come to the room, I'm peeking through the door. What am I seeing? Describe what I'm looking at. When you already started, what am I looking at? So, I know you mentioned people in there cutting out whatever. Yes. So tell me what I'm seeing.
Well, I think first of all, the energy will either pull you in or push you away, because it's usually a lot of high energy type of environment and vibe.
Is there wine sipping?
There is no wine sipping, but it could be. So I do private events where persons, you're the client, you can decide how you want to do this. Now, of course, vision boarding don't always have to be like that. It could be a team building initiative that companies might want to utilize, to build that team connectivity amongst their group. It could be so many different things. It could be you can do it as a couple, so persons, I did one session one time with the church where they were focusing on couples. So the couples did their own vision board. So you'll see persons, sort of zoned out in another world and zoned into their goals, cutting out pictures, looking to make sure that the things that they have on their vision board is really, truly a reflection of what they want. And then in the end, persons also have a chance to present those vision boards to the audience. So it allows you to build your confidence and keep you accountable. So when you stand there and you say, okay, I am going to do XYZ, someone would remember that you said you're going to do XYZ and perhaps ask you about it at some point as well.
So folks, you hear that? Now a lot of you managers or supervisors of different departments, sometimes you want to have your team building exercises, but here's a different side that you can tap into instead of the same old. Okay, Shelisia, the vision board things definitely sounds interesting. What other services do you dabble in besides, because we know you're the big hotel executive and all that, but these are side passions that you do, right? So yes. Tell me some more about other things that you do.
Other things I do would include customer service training. So I'm very, very passionate when it comes to exuding and giving the best customer service experiences to your guests or your staff or your clients. And so I would have worked or collaborated with different entities in the past to offer those types of customer service trainings in an effort to enhance the product that they offer and to elevate the staff to another level that they can then offer the best experiences to any guest. So that's something that I enjoy doing. That sometimes tie into professional etiquette training. Sometimes we can definitely be more professional in certain instances and in certain companies. So of course, all of these are customized depending on the organization. So that as well sometimes ties into customer service training, or it can be done something separately. I also do something I call it C's. It basically stands for Shelisia's Extraordinary Services, and basically what that is, it's a small concierge type service that allows me to curate experiences for persons ranging from birthdays, anniversaries, vow renewals, engagements, you name it. Essentially, persons tend to feel like they're not really sure what to do for certain occasions. So you might have a significant other that, I don't know, their birthday's coming up, or it's Valentine's Day, or it's a special anniversary, and you're not sure what to do because you're on Nevis and you feel like, as persons like to say, there is nothing here to do. And so I try to now come in and understand your vision for what you would like to see and try to offer an itinerary or an experience that will, include certain sort of unique aspects of what we can offer here in Nevis or even on St Kitts. So it's like a concierge itinerary building, customer service, or coordinating experience for these clients. So that's something as well that I'm very excited and passionate about.
Okay. Your side passions, what methods or what platforms do you use to get out into the public?
I think social media has definitely been the main tool that I've utilized to tell persons what I do. I know a lot of times it's word of mouth. Like I have some really amazing, I call them my clients, that they're the ones who share their stories, and then persons then come to me. But my marketing, I try not to make it sort of in your face too much. I think that the brand speaks for itself. I also think that, you know, after a session, I've had sessions where after I'm finished, I have persons coming up to me like, hey, you were so amazing, I would really like for you to speak to XYZ person in order to facilitate a session as well. So those are really the tools that I'm utilizing at the moment. As you know, this is something I do on the side. It's not my main thing, and so I also don't want to, not that I don't want to focus on it, but I'm also one person at the moment, and so I don't want to, you know, take on too many responsibilities and then not give priority to other things that are important. So for now, it would be a case of utilizing social media to the best of my ability, which I think is one of the most effective ways as well, especially in this climate.
Okay. Now, this is not supposed to be a small business focus, but there's some aspects that we utilize in small business focus. Some of the questions, and I'd still like to ask Shelisia, because I'm still about motivating and inspiring others. Your side hustle, let's call it that. What would you say to not just a young person, but anyone who wants to, you know, they already have their 9 to 5, but they'd like to maybe do something like what you're doing, not necessarily, but just do something else, like be on it from, you know, from the entrepreneurial standpoint. What would you say to them?
I would say that look to see what the need is and then just go for it. I remember when I first returned, so how I got into vision boarding, backstory. When I was living in Florida between 2015 and 2017, I was a part of the Toastmasters organization, which is a public speaking entity or organization to help you to hone leadership skills and your public speaking skills. During that time I was there, of course, I ensured that I networked with persons within the organization, and one of the persons I met is actually the person who then introduced me to vision boarding. So this person gave me a book and then also had their own vision boarding session and invited me to co-facilitate that. So after I did that, I thought this is something that would definitely work within St Kitts Nevis. I thought that at that point no one was doing anything like it. It was a completely new concept. And so when I returned to the Federation in 2017, I had in mind that this is something I would like to do eventually. I did not have the first vision board party until 2019. And prior to that, I was, of course, sharing with persons, you know, about this really amazing concept I thought about vision boarding and this party. And there were a lot of persons that were very discouraging because they didn't understand it. They didn't understand the vision. They were saying things like, well, who would want to pay to go to that? Who would want to do something like that? Because it's new. So I would say to anyone that, you know, you have your own vision, you have your own passions, and it's something that you want to do. You have to be able to sort of ignore the naysayers and understand your vision and understand how you want to execute that. There would be a lot of persons that are discouraging. If I was to, you know, listen to those voices, then I would not actually be here today, because I would think that this is not something that makes any sense, because these are some of the comments that persons were sharing, that this doesn't make any sense. But then I, you know, persevered. I had the first vision board party actually at Park Hyatt in St. Kitts in 2019, and it was a sold out event. It was 2 sessions, one where you have adults and then you have children, and both sessions were absolutely amazing, and that is what helped to catapult me to where I am today, personally and professionally as well. So I think at the end of the day, persons, everyone is not going to see your vision for your organization or your business or for your life. Even when I think about me going into hospitality management and, you know, making sure that my career surrounds tourism and hospitality, there were persons who did not think that I should do this. You know, there were persons even close to you who would say to you that you should be a doctor or a lawyer, or you should, you know, follow in the footprints or footsteps of your mom, like my mom was a nurse. And so, but I knew what I felt within myself, that vision, that passion, that zeal, that enthusiasm, and I had to hone into that and just be able to cultivate my own life experiences based on that. So that, I believe, would be the number one tip for anyone wanting to do anything that may seem different than the norm.
How important is networking, and how does Shelisia network? What's your method of networking?
I think networking, especially in this in this climate is very, very critical and crucial. I think persons cannot just rely on the fact that people are going to find out, or people are going to know, but you have to again raise your hand. You have to again go forward and say, hi, I am XYZ. I know sometimes people become a bit shy, but what's the worst that can happen? I always think it's either the person is going to say yes or no. I remember even just as an intern when I was at the Zurich Marriott Hotel, this is in Switzerland, in 2014, I was at an event and I literally just said excuse me, and I went and introduced myself to a director of HR at a very prominent brand. And the director of HR then was saying to my general manager at that time that, this girl, she just came and she just introduced herself. Or even at the hotel, I went to the general manager and I said, hi, I want to be a general manager one day. Tell me how. I want to learn about what you've done to get to this point, and so let me know when we can sit down and have a conversation. Now that was very nerve-wracking. I was just this bottom of the food chain intern, because that is how sometimes people perceive interns. You're not there yet, you're not a real employee yet, you're still learning, but what separates me from a lot of other persons is my curiosity, my zeal and my passion and my willingness to say, hey, I'm just going to do it. If you say yes, amazing. If you say no, then I tried. And I think those are the types of qualities that a lot of times differentiate you from other people, and that's what people like. So in networking, just put yourself out there, make the post, send the message, walk up to that person, and I think just try your best to also be consistent. So people would say to me all the time that they don't want to walk down Charlestown with me because I have to say hi to everybody under the planet, but that's just who I am. I'm consistently that person. So when I enter the hotel, it's not difficult for me to interact with the guests in that way, because this is who you are as an individual. So I think just be yourself, be authentically you, and that's what really and truly draws people to who you are.
Thanks. I'm gonna jump back real quick because you mentioned Switzerland before, and I forgot to ask about that. Now, I lived in Alaska for 2.5 years, and I remember we had like 7 months of straight night, and like 5 months of daytime.
Okay.
What was it like? Did you have a similar experience or no?
That was a very long time ago, but I don't recall it being that drastic. I would say that there were definitely days that I did not see the sun, and there were days that I saw the sun a lot, and so I don't think it was on that heightened level where it was ongoing for so many months. But Switzerland is an absolutely beautiful place, very expensive, but definitely a very beautiful place, and one of their, I would say, gems in Europe. So if persons have an opportunity, even if they're in France or even in the UK, they're easily able to go over to Switzerland, even if it's on a day trip, just to see what the country has to offer.
Okay. And did you see people that looked like you were there when you were there?
I did see a few persons that look like me. Of course, not as many as I would have seen, living here or living in the US. It's the same in Australia. I mean, even in my hotel, there was one other person that looked like me, one other female and one other male during the entire time that I worked there. Now, for me personally, those things don't bother me. People don't tend to believe that, but I think I've been cultured and well-traveled and well exposed, and I work in hotels for most of my life, and so those things don't faze me. To me, you're a human being, and I would always treat you with a certain degree of respect. But I do understand that in some instances you may feel more comfortable in environments that would have persons that look like you. So when I was on my way coming back to the Caribbean after working in Australia, when I got to the US, because of course I had to go to the US to get here, it was quite interesting, because I remember for a very, very small moment feeling to myself that, wow, it's been such a long time that I've seen so many persons that looked like me. It was a bit overwhelming in a good way, but it was just like, wow, this is so new to me for a while. In some of my travels, like when I was in Indonesia in particular, I had persons in Indonesia, in Bali. I went to Bali and Lombok. So Lombok is a smaller country than Bali, but it's still very big in compared to Nevis. And I had persons coming up to me just wanting to take a picture because they've never seen someone that looks like me. They may have seen it on television, but they've never had the opportunity to interact that up close with that person. So random persons were just coming up to me wanting to take a picture with me, and I just thought it was really, really funny. I was also at a wedding in Lombok. One of my friends who I actually studied with in Switzerland invited me to their wedding, so I was there, and this person was so enamored with me. They were like trying to figure out, well, how is this person that looks like me here at this wedding, this Indonesian wedding? So just like how sometimes people might have certain reactions here locally when they see persons that don't look like them, sometimes it could be the same depending on where in the world that you are as well.
Let me ask you this. Young division woman, tell me all the places you've visited in this world.
All the places I've visited, excluding the Caribbean?
No, name everything.
The Caribbean? Okay, let me try to remember. So I've been to Statia, a very short visit. Anguilla, Antigua, Trinidad, Barbados. I think most people have been to Barbados for their visa. Where else in the Caribbean have I been to? Tortola, St. Thomas, Aruba, Curacao, St. Croix, Puerto Rico. I'm trying to do it in geographical areas so that I remember. St. Lucia, I'm not sure if I mentioned St. Lucia. So that's the Caribbean. And then of course the US. The US is huge, so you visit different states in the US. Apart from the US, then it would be Switzerland. Of course, I lived there for 2 years. Whilst I was in Switzerland, I visited the UK, which I did pass through the UK on the way to Switzerland, but I don't know if that counts because you're on the airport. So then I was able to go to Leeds in England during the time I was in Switzerland. And then I also went to Amsterdam, so the Netherlands, that's the country. And then France, so I visited Paris, and so that's Europe. Germany as well, I was in Germany twice. I was in Munich, which is another beautiful part of the world, and I think that is the extent for Europe. And then of course now down under, so I was in Australia, I went to Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And then within Indonesia has a lot of different islands. It's similar to, I guess, the Caribbean, where you have a lot of different islands, or a lot of different, aspects to Indonesia. So within Indonesia, I was in Bali, and then I was in this place called Lombok. So I feel like that is the comprehensive list of places that I've had the pleasure of visiting for now.
Okay. Yeah, it's like I said, we're trying to, again, you're someone we can relate to. You're from right here in Nevis, and we're trying to experience voyeuristically through your experiences. So that's hence a lot of the questions.
And while I was away as well, I tried to post a lot, like for persons who would have had me on maybe Facebook stories or on WhatsApp. I try to post as much as possible. I believe in living in the experience, and so I don't want to be at a place and so caught up with trying to capture the place that I miss out on the experience. And so it's a bit of a balance that you have to try to do. But I try my best to post as much so that persons would have a chance to see some of those places. And there's just been the outpour of support and persons messaging me to say thank you so much for deciding to share that, because I don't know if I'll have a chance to visit Bali, but I was able to see Bali through your lens. All persons may have messaged to say, no, I've seen it, it looks so amazing, I want to go. So I think, each of us in our very own way can be ambassadors, not just representing, Nevis, but also showing persons, hey, you can be from here but still experience those things, and you're not good enough to do that. You can do it. So just, keep that in mind as well.
Okay, this next question is a personal question, but I'll ask it because I was working at an event we had for the seniors during the Christmas time, and you were there, and I see you jumping up to the gospel music and everything, right? So I'll ask how, and I'm just assuming faith is involved. Tell me how faith figures into your journey so far.
So I grew up here in Nevis. We're a Christian society. For most of my life I've been in church, and so that's what I know. And I think for me personally, having lost my mom at age 13, having to navigate all of the challenges that came with that, but still trying my best to keep on a sound head and stay in the straight and narrow road, as persons may say. I don't think all of that would be possible without a higher power, and for me that's God, and so that's really important to me. My faith is very important, and I remember when I was first going abroad and going to Switzerland, someone saying to me, oh, you're gonna go so far, suppose something is to happen to you, what are you gonna do? And I remember just thinking about the scripture verse that talks about like the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, meaning that wherever you go, God is there. And so for me, that has provided a deeper sense of assurance and comfort and peace, knowing that even if I go to Timbuktu, even if I'm here on a 36 square mile island, or if I'm in a huge island or a country, I know and I have the confidence that God will go with me, and He's always protecting me. So I think faith has definitely been a critical part of my journey, and something that I still continue to hold near and dear to my heart.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up now. Is there anything else that I may not have asked that you would want the people to know about?
I think we were able to cover pretty much, a general synopsis of, my journey thus far, and my Australian experience, and me being here at the moment. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak with you and to, sensitize persons about some of the things that I was able to accomplish and to do. And I really hope that persons would walk away feeling inspired, knowing that, you don't have to be from a huge country to do quote unquote huge things. I think it's important to also remain humble, in different aspects of success that we gain. I think that has always been something that I try to remember. And so, yes, be passionate, dream big, know that you can do it, and the extent of your goals and dreams don't have to be limited to the 36 square mile island that we are from. So always believe that, hey, if someone else can do it, you can do it, and you can do it better.
Well, Shelisia, thank you for
Absolutely.
coming on the show.
Thank you.
And folks, y'all heard from the lady. First of all, remain humble. Faith is important. And lastly, put your hands up.
Yes, put your hand, or your two hands.
Your two hands. See why you don't have two hands?
Well, then you jump up, you stand up, you shake, you do something. Just let persons know that, hey, you are interested, and that sometimes differentiates you from the other candidate, and that's what they go with. They go with passion. So don't count yourself out yet.
Folks, this has been our first episode of Experiences. Tune in next time. Bless.